So, when we talk about developing motivation, we're talking about developing a good heart. So, as a human being, we want to be developing a positive attitude or a good-hearted motivation, so that we have this intention to be of benefit to others. This should be our purpose in life. So, so we should also take time to feel very fortunate, rejoice in this opportunity we have to study this amazing text, the Uttara Tantra. So this is a very profound teaching, and it's unique in the fact, or well, not unique, but rare or unusual in the fact that it has two authors. Most texts only have one author, but this is co-authored by Maitreya and Asanga, so makes it, I don't know, extra special, I guess. So, so we should feel very fortunate because it's very rare to have this opportunity to study a profound text like this. So we feel fortunate that we have this opportunity.
yeah. Now look, you see, you don't have to Sanjay, Rigo, Rigu, done. Kung, Lung, Dona, those are similar, similar to yourself. Gulan, Kung, then that on the Pegu share about the Pegu share the Yamada, Sanjay, Rigu, Kung, Lung, Lung, or Lung, yes,
So, the next few weeks we're going to be studying this, looking at this Buddha nature in this Tathagatha text. So this is all based on what Buddha said, where regarding mind, the nature of the mind is clear light. So this is the original transmission or the original scriptural advice. But then looking further, there's we're talking about nine branches or nine subdivisions of the subject, and we're going to be looking at those as well. Oh, sorry, 9 examples. 9 examples. Right, sorry. Great. Yeah. So that's from a scriptural point of view. From a reasoning point of view, if we see our mind and the nature of our mind, although we have all these stains present, and the stains being referred to as the delusions, attachment, jealousy, pride, and so forth. However, this does not taint or stain the actual nature of our mind. The reason for this is said the stains are said to be adventitious. So, adventitious means that it's not a natural part of something. It's added on top and therefore can be removed. So these delusions or stains are said to be adventitious. Kanda did you choice? Oh no. Okay, it's okay. Yeah. So in this human life, there's two ways we can look at the life. We can look at it in a positive direction or a negative direction, right? So when we look at it in a positive direction, like with anything, if we don't... So, if we look in a positive direction, as we would in a worldly thing, if we don't understand something, like if we want to learn a language, or if we want to learn to ride or drive or learn to cook or anything like that, we can study, and there are methods with which we can improve ourselves in a conventional sense. So if we wish to attain the state of Buddhahood and the final happiness, then we need to develop ourselves in a Dharma direction, right? And, of course, there's difficulties, right? But we've always experienced difficulties throughout all our lives. We've always experienced difficulties. And when we practice Dharma, then, we're still human beings and we're still going to experience difficulties in our lives. However, the point being is that we shouldn't make these problems bigger than they are. We should be trying to reduce them, right? And we want to always be improving. We always want to be developing and growing as human beings and heading in the direction of enlightenment, heading towards Buddhahood. So we should check against our own experience, right? If we're having this experience of our mind developing and developing our positive qualities, and then we see we're heading in this direction, then we should really feel or see that it's positive to attain the state of enlightenment. Possible to attain the state of enlightenment.
Pomra jao samro tan chi na ne ko khale ko pa me so ya ge ni bo ye ja shi ni ko rik ko nyamne ma che na tu de sha sha ko khale nya chi ta samro tam ro shi sim de shi da ga de ma ge ji ta khong do shu mo shi ne de khale nyamne ma che na ne me cha ge ko jen de mi jen de me cha ge Okay.
So, when we encounter difficulties and delusions arise, such as pride, jealousy, and so forth, we should recognize these as being reactions to adventitious conditions or temporary conditions. And as those conditions subside or as we get then those delusions will go down. And of course, if we meditate, then we should practice, then we should be reducing them as well. But just from leaving aside practicing or meditating, we can see that these delusions just naturally dissipate. Like when you're not around the objects that stir up these delusions, then naturally they will go down, right? Pride, jealousy, attachment goes down when you're not around these objects that stir them up. However, of course, if you want to remove the root of these delusions, then you need to meditate and practice. So now we're looking at how to actualize our nature, right, through the practice. So there's if we won't only go through the text, we'll make like an outline or of a story, like a basic, we call it like a plot outline, so that we have an understanding, because going to the text, the meaning is very profound, right, and there's a lot of meaning in it. So today we're going to look at the ways of practicing, how to actualize our nature through practice. Okay, so we've true. So 6 subheadings for this. Okay. So this Sarah J. Teacher has taken essential points, essential meaning out of the very profound text to make it easier to understand. So it's we're very fortunate. 냠린 쉐기 추죠. 오케이.
냠린 치주스 비우스 남주라 치주지.
그래.
시버디 릭세베 펜야 릭세네 펜야 그래. 마와드 릭 치니 그거들 릭 야와. 그들이 이제 시험이나 이때야.
Okay. So these six that we're going to be looking at are the methods to awaken one's nature, the sign of having awakened one's nature, the how to explain the way to practice to awaken one's nature. Number 4 is the benefit of awakening one's nature. Number 5 is the definition of the nature, and number 6 is the divisions.
먼저 창마 그걸 리그요 산제 리그요가 그래서 산제 리그 니후데 한다 아 니후 그 니세오가 미지 니후데 니세오가 야면은 주부도 주제에나도 들라고 야면은 추쇼고 야면은 그거 나고 추 탈람지 거로 니세오
Right.
지난 시기 다 리세를 탈람지 거로 해서
Okay, so we all have this Buddha nature. But it's sleeping at the moment. You can say dormant or you can say sleeping. So if it's sleeping, then we need to wake it up. So how do we wake it up? Just like when somebody's asleep, you can do various things. You can, I don't know, make loud, scary sounds or pour water in their ear, or, you know, you got a lot of options to wake somebody up. So now we need to learn how to awaken our nature. So it's like, because we can't practice properly, we're all kind of sleepwalking, I guess, around trying to get things done in our sort of semi-dysfunctional way. So when we want to awaken our nature, the most important thing is to rely on a qualified teacher. Right? This is key. If we have a teacher who can give us advice of what to cultivate, what to do, what not to do, and so forth, this becomes incredibly important, right, to awaken one's nature. And it says many times in many texts, the root of the path is this reliance on the spiritual friend. So that's important, and also having like Dharma friends around is also very important. Okay. So then the next one's refuge. Refuge is very important, because if we want to practice Buddha Dharma, of course you need refuge as the basis for everything. You know, if we want to purify negativity, we need the basis of refuge. If we want to cultivate virtue, we need the basis of refuge. Through purifying negativity and cultivating virtue, this is what awakens our nature. So if we want to really awaken our nature, we first have to cultivate this refuge in bodhicitta. So when we talk about Buddhist refuge, then it's refuge in the three jewels, right? And not refuge in other things, or complete refuge in other things. So when we look at this, the Dharma is said to be the protector, right? Because it helps us to develop our mind in a virtuous way, and it also protects us from creating non-virtue. And in this way, if we cultivate this virtue and remove our non-virtue, then we actually come to understand. Oh, okay. Right. And this is the actual Dharma practice. So the Dharma refuge is said to be the real refuge, because that's what we actually put into practice. And then the Sangha is said to be those who have the realization, the Arya beings who have deep realizations. And then the Buddha is, of course, the enlightened beings. So this is the uncommon refuge of the Buddhist practice. Okay. So when we take refuge, we need to have like a fear or a concern of the negativities in our mind. This becomes the basis, right? Just as if you're physically sick, obviously you'd take medicine because you're concerned about being physically sick. You know, your body's unhealthy, and therefore you take the medicine and you take it in the right way and the exact doses that are prescribed. Because you know that if you do it in the right way, in the right times, in the right amount, then you'll recover from your sickness, right? So in this way, we should see the Buddha as a doctor. And us as a patient, because our minds are sick. We're filled up with these delusions, and therefore we need to take the medicine that's going to cure this. And then we need the support of the spiritual community to help us do it properly, right? And we are not fortunate enough to meet the Buddha directly at this time. So therefore we should see our teacher, our spiritual friend, as being the doctor. And if we rely on him and practice in the right way, this is a method that we can use to awaken our Buddha nature. So the best thing you can also do is read, right? The best method for awakening your nature is to read, to understand, right? Understand what is right and what is not, you know, what's valid, what's not. But what's valid and what's not is the best way. You know, we should understand things like what is our Buddha nature, what are the Four Noble Truths, and so forth. And, you know, it's okay to keep yourself busy doing this, because actually you're never going to run out of things to read and things to study, right? You know, normally we think, oh, you know, to be busy, be really busy means like we're having a successful life. But in this, you know, this sense of studying the Dharma, then the more busy you are, the better, right? And you're never going to exhaust the things that you can learn and study. And the more you study, the more you learn, the more you understand the nature of reality, and the more the power of your mind will develop. So it's one of the best methods is to study as much as you can.
그런 거 사실 내가 지금 말하다 이미신다 내가 지금 내가 적어래 내가 적어래 내가 적어 빼빈지
Right.
진짜 당근에도 가지에서는 저 치마를 간다는 내가 막 웃지 특히가 비즈 말해 저 치매 비즈에서 나오고 그러잖아.
Okay, so some of you might not work, like not have a full-time job, and some people might say, "Oh, you need to work, it's good." And say, "Oh, no." You can say to them, "No, I'm far too busy to have a job." And if they ask you, "Well, what are you so busy doing?" And you say, "Well, like I'm going to have to move out of this body soon and onto the next one, so I better get ready and prepare my next life because I want a nice place to move into." So I'm kind of busy with that. Right, so you can tell everybody how busy you are getting ready for your next life, and they won't think you're crazy at all. Don't worry. So you might say, people might say, it's not too good to be too relaxed. Don't relax too much. You can say, "Oh, don't worry, I'm not too relaxed. I'm very busy. I've got plenty to worry about, plenty to think about." So.
Be relaxed. Not too rush. No, do something. We need to know. Now I say, just do something. More reading. Practice reading. Go start it. 다른 로전지 비디치 들어. 비디치 해야 돼. 로전지 해야 당, 대부에 당, 공개에 당. 어디 스타트에도 빼요. 로전지 망배치고 좋아요,
So that's good. Then if you can be really busy because there's always things to learn and study, and you're never going to run out. Like you're never going to finish all your understanding. There's always more to learn and more to study. Okay. So also it's very good to read the histories, the biographies of the Buddha, right? And it's very valuable to be able to do this. And this Old Path, White Cloud, written by Thich Nhat Hanh, is a very good biography or history of the Buddha. So also great masters like Milarepa and Lama Tsongkhapa and so forth. You can read their histories or biographies, and this really helps us to know about these masters whose texts we're studying. Okay. Yep. And now the sign. So this is the method. Now we're looking at the sign of having awakened one's Buddha nature. Okay. So a sign that you have started to awaken your nature is that when you see the suffering of sentient beings or the faults of samsara, then a compassion arises in your mind to the point where you might like have physical reaction, like your hair stand on end, or you'll cry, tears well up in your eyes. At this point is a sign you've started to awaken your nature. Okay, so this is the Mahayana nature we're talking about. So, this is external signs we're talking about here. When you see the suffering of sentient beings, or you think about that, and or you think about the qualities of the Buddhas, that you have a physical reaction like your hair standing on end, or your tears well up in your eyes. So this is the external sign. Internal sign is this great compassion. You should, developing great compassion, and you'll continue. Okay, so when you've developed great compassion in your mind stream, this is said to be the Mahayana awakening of the Mahayana nature, or awakening of one's nature according to the Mahayana. So we don't have great compassion because we don't have this compassion for the suffering of all beings, right? Sometimes we develop, when we see certain people suffering or certain situations, we develop compassion, but other times, we don't have this compassion. So that's because we have like this feeling of closeness and distance, or attachment and aversion, like and dislike to different people. And so in this way, we can be said to have compassion, but we don't have great compassion because we have this biased sort of compassion. So kari tangyong tang. Kindness. And then repeat. Okay. 1, 2, 3. So when we look at this methods to develop this great compassion and bodhicitta, then this 7-point mind training, 7-point cause and effect training is the one of the main ways to do it. And if you can join this with also this practice of equanimity as a beginning, this can be very helpful, right? So if you're able to develop if you're able to develop the equanimity, and then if you believe in reincarnation, seeing all beings as your mother, recognize their kindness and wishing to repay their kindness, this becomes the basis for awakening one's nature. So if there's one practice that I could say would be very helpful in developing this understanding, would be understanding this, or doing this meditation of cause and effect, right? So if you think first about the mindfulness of body, right, when we do this practice, and then you think about this body and where does it come from, and you can actually keep going back more and more, right? Like you can go back as far as you want. Like where did it come from before that, and before that, and before that, going back as far, like there's no limit to how far you can go back.
파마 주면서 오늘도 하고
Yep.
아메 뇌는 근데 중요해. 이야 근데 삼는 로터비나 아니 이제 단계 당뇨도야 다 거리 중요해야 때다. 이제는 제일 미리 보내야 돼. 날 하고 이래 봐.
So if we can think, obviously we all know we're born from parents, but if we understand what happened prior to that, going back and back and back, then this reasoning can help us to develop equanimity and recalling the kindness of others and developing compassion. Becomes a very useful basis for that. So if you're able to meditate on this cause and effect, then it connects to many different other practices. Okay, so that covers off the sign of awakening, one's nature. So, where there's this attitude of bodhicitta, then it's without any difficulty, without any strain, you're able to work for the welfare of others, with all your actions of your body and speech. Like just as we say, if there's smoke, then there's fire, right? If there's a sound of a car, then there must be a car there. If you hear a bird sound, then there must be a bird there. So it's the same. When you have wherever there's this attitude of bodhicitta, then that being will work tirelessly for the benefit of others, right? This is the experience of these beings, that they're able to tirelessly work for the benefit of others. So that's the sign of having awakened. Okay. So the next one, the method to explain how to awaken one's nature, is, this method of awakening one's nature is first we need to develop understanding of the means to explain this, right? So first we need to develop this cause and effect understanding. So if we look at our body going back and back and back, previous lives, right? And if we can really get this conviction in previous lives, then of course if there's previous lives, there must be future lives as well. Now, some people hold the view that if you're a human being, you'll be as a human being in your next life. And if you're an animal, you're born as an animal in your next life. But in actuality, this isn't the case. This isn't the reality of the way things are. And there's many histories, that show that humans can be born as animals and vice versa, right? So if you have this understanding that it's definitely possible for you to be born as an animal and in very difficult circumstances, then you'd think, well, no, this is no good. I need to be born as a human being again, right? So then you think, well, how do I go about this? And if then, with this understanding, then you'd think, well, you need to take refuge. And so with this understanding, this is the motivation you should have to take refuge. Okay, so this is the way of explaining the means to awaken according to the small scope beings. So then, but one might look at this being human being and think, well, this isn't all that great either, right? Like, we all have problems, and sometimes from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, and then we have problems all day, and even then we cannot sleep, so then we've still got problems, right? And this is our experience. So this seeing that being a human being isn't our final solution to problems, then one thinks, well, I need to attain liberation. And if one has this attitude to attain liberation from samsara, then this is the meditation to explain for the medium scope, how to awaken one's nature for the medium scope. So, when we this liberation, what are we talking about when we have this liberation, or talk about this liberation? Liberation from what? Well, if we look at the things that cause us problems, such as anger and so forth, well, we can look at anger and say, well, the root of anger is pride. And then when we look at the root of pride, if we dig down, it comes to this self-grasping. So this grasping at this independent self, which doesn't actually exist, but we hold it to exist. We hold on to this as being like a real person. This kind of grasping is the problem. This is what the root of all our suffering. So it's like the example of what we do is like if you see an actor in a movie, if we believe that is actually that person, like that actor is actually like James Bond or whatever, right? We think that's kind of an example of what we do. Right, so this is most of the time we try and be an actor in our own crappy movie. It's a pretty B-grade movie. Yeah, we're all making our own B-grade movies. Can I be James Bond tomorrow? James Bond is my favorite actor. Yeah, you like James Bond? All right, that'd be cool. Okay, I could do that. Yeah, he can do quite a lot of stuff. Not for like Messi. Oh, mud. Okay, mud. Sorry.
안치 당장 잡은 내가 아니 묘모 여마 묘모 매매 내가 되나
Mm.
아니 타르바도 묘모 묘매라 타르 타르바다 근데 진짜 용용 용아 여자 감당 용아 여자 됐다고
Mm. So as we want to become closer to our nature, right? So these days, I mean, we're making this movie, but our situation now, our mind now, is like this kind of muddy water, and what we need to do is like clear it because the water is all muddy. You can't see fish or rocks or plants or anything that's actually under the water. However, if you're able to like filter this water or somehow clear it, as it becomes clearer and clearer, then you can see more and more. And when the water is completely clear, you can see everything underneath it. So, this is like our minds. If our delusions, if we've removed all the delusions, our minds are completely clear. And this is what's called the state of liberation.
어네 다데네 아니 다디 아니 라니 지고 그 디도 상 되는죠 신제도 제가 그린 친구들이야 인장에 신제 주소다 강의 세워 치고로 상대 대체야 누가네 수준을 민도 따라와 신제 신 중요한 민도 동일에 대원 알치고 미셔 나지다 대원하지 거든데나 신제도 제가 그린 친구들 네 아마 진요를 수준 보고 진요를 바워 진요를 기간 진요를 보고 진요를 보고 진요를 당가 영만 하는 거 인자 아직도 수수 명언에 자와 전부의 미드들다 안에 들으시도 눈에 들으시도 눈에 대화를 치고도 말하는 누구 믿도 단다 미시다 누구 빠져 수수 동에는 겹도 없는 거야 아 누구 이제 수술로 배샤 먹고 쓰는 분들도 세도에 세도도 야만한 하나 잡으려는 게 페마스로 게다 친구 찬 분들도 세도 계속 야면은 게 마음이 망고 쓰여져 잖아 마음이 망고도 같은데 쓰여는 예 이문에도 다 그래 산재 고마도는 거기는 거치도 인정에 코드 등을 써야지 아마 산재 고마도 토부도 상대적인 기후 첨부 써야 되는 남도 재미에 레스터와
So then, if you have this understanding, then you should look deeper and see that actually attaining your own individual liberation is not enough because you're not the only one experiencing suffering. Actually, all sentient beings are experiencing suffering. And right now, in our current state, we don't actually have the power to help them. However, all sentient beings have been very kind to us in the past. They've all been our mothers, our fathers, our children, our wives, our husbands, and so forth, right? There's no limit to the number of different connections we have with these beings. And at the moment, they're experiencing incredible difficulties and suffering and so forth. So we need to look, if we don't have the power to help them now, then who actually has this power? Well, is it somebody who has a lot of money? Well, no. Somebody who has a lot of money is still limited in what they can do. Somebody who's very famous is also limited in what they can do, right? A general who has a huge army like the Chinese army, even they can't clear away the suffering of beings. So who is it that actually can do this? Would say, oh, okay. Actually, these guys seem to make more problems for people. In fact, these people who seem to make a lot of money seem to make more problems. People who seem to be famous seem to have more problems. People who seem to have a huge army seem to have a lot more problems, right? So none of these people are even able to clear away their own suffering, let alone help somebody else. So who can actually help? Well, it's only a fully enlightened Buddha that can help, right? So therefore, if you can really see this, then you should actually develop this genuine wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And this is the Mahayana scope. So this covers off the three methods to explain how to awaken one's nature according to the small scope, medium scope, and great scope beings. Okay, so next we look at the benefit of awakening one's nature. And if you really understand this, then you develop a very strong, clear determination to actually attain this state of enlightenment.
아니 준비 하고 돼요. 딱 개월치야 준비 수준이에요. 먼저 단다 레로 먹고 레기도 되게 참담도 산이죠. 봄산이죠. 진짜 산이죠. 다 단다 샤죠. 단다 그 아니 로아는 그 준비 제도만 봐요. 리세이나 준비 지야.
Right.
강해요 말이야.
So the first benefit is that one will have incredible joyous effort, right? At the moment, we don't have this joy in doing practice. We feel very lazy, right? We think, oh, I can't be bothered to go to the puja or the teachings or meditate or whatever. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it later. However, if you've awakened your nature, then you won't have this. You'll have incredible joy.
아니 그거는 내년 것이 맞습니다. 그래서 공개하는 때 tempo 야고 개천부터 안다 먼저 최제의 개천부 개말 먼저 메제디 배셔서야 한바자 모던이야 둘러냐 아니 칼라 오르기니스야 제제야 그 개천부로 저절로 쉬우지 tempo 아 최제야 공개하는 프리 tempo 먼저 프리 tempo 그래 문에 저는 네 개천부 띄고 신나 시야로 먼저 딜레마는 먼저 looks color data. The content 먼저 산지에 비비아 세트로
So you'd also have a very stable mind that really takes the essence of what needs to be done. Right? For the moment, we're very busy with things that are not really that important, like making money or traveling or trying to buy cars or buy houses or get the best organic food or do this like exercise. Okay, so you spend all your money going doing yoga and going to the gym and all of this. But this is because we're focused on all of these things. We put all our energy into what's not that important, right? So if we can stop focusing on these things that are less important, make some free time, and then use it to if we'd awakened our nature, then we'd use this time to really take the essence from it and do what's actually beneficial.
아니 내 손에 뉴 타원다. 지금 근데 제외이나 아니 내 손에 지금 말해. 배우시면 내 손에 타기로 했어요. 타면은 저거 타기로 했어요.
Right, so then you'd lose your fear of the lower realms because you'd realize you were free, or you'd be quickly freed from the lower realms.
그래서 다 타러서 내 손에 타러. 다 타고 그다음에 내 손에 타러.
So when we talk about liberation, we're also talking about this. Meaning of liberation could be liberation from the lower realms. And based on that, then liberation from samsara comes. And then you quickly attain the state of Buddhahood. Right, and then you can be a vast and tremendous benefit and give like incredible, pure advice to beings. Sentient beings. Okay, so we're talking about all the benefits of this nature and this method to awaken it and the signs of awaken it and yada yada. But what is this nature we're actually talking about? So that's when we get into the definition of the nature. So a phenomena that is suitable to transform into the body of the Buddhas. Yeah, phenomena. The phenomena. Yeah. So a dharma, like literally dharma, or often translated as phenomena. So a dharma that is suitable to transform into the body or to become the body of the Buddha. Okay, so we can say the example of this is our clear and knowing aspect of the mind, because this clear and knowing aspect of the mind is what will later become the bodies of the Buddha. Chogiku, it is Sangiku, yeah, the bodies of a Buddha.
I just the phenomena that is suitable, and I just didn't get the rest of the sentence.
Okay, a phenomena that is suitable to become or to transform into the body of a Buddha. Okay, that's it.
Okay. That definition is clear about that. Yes, yeah, yeah.
Next question just about the
Yeah.
last bit. You said, are clear knowing aspects of our mind will become the bodies of the Buddha? Is this a Dhammakaya or only
So the clear knowing aspect of our mind will become the bodies of the Buddha. Is that the Dharmakaya or all the bodies? So naja semgi sashin rikpa right? The sangi ko jela gyogire right? So the chogi ko or ku sangma kuni?
단다 산제기 티니샤지 산제 릭터메티니로 봐. 세리기 심 세리기 차데 산제에서는 이시축이 주는 거예요.
Okay.
무슨 되게.
Right.
두제 산지 구주는 거예요. 그러나 먼저 심디 아니 세리기 마음과 산지 구주는 상황인가 이제 이시축이 주는.
Okay.
이시축.
Wisdom Dharma body, right? So this is more like a general definition or general explanation for all understandings, right? From the deep teaching, yeah, from the Mahayana perspective, the clear and knowing nature of the mind is actually what becomes the wisdom Dharma body of the Buddha. That's what it finally becomes. The Sashin Rikti Yishin Chuku Gyurungire, yeah, will become or suitable to become, transform into. Right. Rangshin Gu. Okay. Swabhavakaya. So the emptiness, the emptiness of this our mind, the clear and knowing aspect of the mind, like all phenomena are empty, but the emptiness of the clear and knowing nature of our mind is what will become the swabhavakaya. Swabhavakaya? No, it's swabhavakaya. Yeah. No, Sambhavakaya is like the sorry. So yeah, the Swabhavakaya, or the essence, the Nowaniku, the essential body or the essence body of the Buddha. Okay. So these 5 aggregates will later become, the 5 aggregates of it will later transform into the 5 Buddha families. Sanghi Rigna. Yeah, the 5 kings of the Buddha of the families, right? So, it's like to say that it's Kari Nanza Kumangbo. Alright, so alright. So in Tibet they have all these different bodies of the Buddhas, so that's great. Like we all have these aggregates that can become all these, so that's an explanation how you can have so many different bodies.
Some people say, oh, true man is Buddha. True man is spiritual. I think they don't understand.
Right. So yeah, later when you become Buddhas, you can have lots of bodies as well. So.
Buddha nature is having the quality of body, speech, and mind of Buddha, or
So does the body Buddha nature have the qualities of body, speech, and mind of Buddha? So the Google tonda this Sapamanduro, the no ni good and the could this can you say Morang Sabala the Lu Nag Yi Sum, right? The Buddha body, speech, and mind, the could this tonda this.
꿀라디 산제게 살아요. 최탐제 산제지 꿀마다. 그 산제다. 산제다. 산제와. 산제도 산제 꿀찍거다 한다.
Okay.
먼저 스나 지금 먼저나 산제지 꿀세야지. 산제 류를 꿀찍고 보여요.
Right.
근데 말다 산제지 류, 산제지 나, 산제지 이. 산제 창마 산제 살아요. 최탐제 산제다 한다.
Okay, so the body here, when we refer to the body, is different to what we say in the body when we talk about body, speech, and mind. So this body of the Buddha is every aspect of the Buddha. We say the Buddha's body is all their aspects, right? Everything, all the phenomena that is an enlightened being, everything that is the bodies of the Buddha, right? So there's no distinction of body, speech, and mind when we talk about the bodies, these bodies of the Buddha. It's everything that makes up a Buddha is the bodies of the Buddha.
네, 그러나 산제지 도스잖아요. 산제 꾸들라 유제지 또 마시지 꾸니시죠.
Okay, composite.
마시지 꾸니디다 산제 생이 준비되더라.
Right.
유제라 소다 간다기나 셔. 그마 이 뇌라이나 아니 소공 처럼 남시 공공아 여러 어떤 뜻이 여러 뭔가 셔요.
So when we talk about this, there's the compounded and uncompounded aspects of the Buddha or bodies of the Buddha, right? So the uncompounded would be like the mind, right? Because it's not compounded in the same way as a physical body would be of the Buddha would be compounded, like, and then that also has its various aspects and its aggregates and things like that. Okay. 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 So this gyurung in Tibetan literally means suitable to become, literally translated. But it's more like a potential in the meaning, right? For example, if somebody's has the potential to be a professor, right? They have the qualities necessary to become a professor, and if they then do the study and so forth for 5 years or 8 years or whatever it might be, then they can do their PhD and become a professor. Oh, sorry, not 5 years. So from when they were 5 years old, that had the potential to be a professor, right? But and then if they did the required things and did their PhD, then they could become the professor. So it's they had that potential to become something, but and that's like the Buddha nature. We have this potential, suitable to become is the literal translator. So all beings, human beings, all have this power, this potential, but also other beings like birds, insects, and so forth. Every sentient being has this power or potential to become a Buddha. So it's very good if we can have this genuine understanding. Like, it brings a lot of meaning to change to our human lives, right? Because in human lives, we all wish to do positive, we wish to do good, but we always face difficulties and problems and so forth. And these can sometimes be overwhelming, and we can get very caught up in our negative aspects and think, I'm the worst human being alive and so forth, right? And we focus often on our mistakes and get too caught up in the negative aspects of our life. However, if we really understand, like clearly understand we have this potential, we have this Buddha nature, we have this potential, that we have this power to attain whatever we wish for, right? And then if we really clearly see that, and then we work in a positive way with that, then we can really develop and it will have a profound effect on our life. Mm. Mm. So if you really familiarize yourself or meditate on the fact that you have this Buddha nature, then you'll never get depressed. Impossible to. Right. So if somebody spends a lot of time really familiarizes themselves with Buddha nature and still gets depressed, then come tell me, because I'd be very confused if that happened. Oh, complain. Sorry, not confused. Complain. Come complain to me. Yeah. Okay, so nanzadi sangigi rig sabo konlong yabo gona deni di tonda di sangigi rig tonda kare re yabo sabo nanza des corridor di penyon de di kare re des lavna pentoputu kadi tonda seni just sounds like I forgot the English. So if Gesh, in order to really develop a motivation towards this Buddha nature, a clear motivation, it would be good if Geshe could go into a little bit more detail about the actual meaning of this Buddha nature. Yeah. Right. So, this suitable to become, or potential to become, this is the meaning of the potential to become a Buddha, or we all sentient beings are suitable to become a Buddha, right? This is a power that all sentient beings have, or a potential that all sentient beings have, and you can think of it like a seed, right? So just as a flower or a tree or whatever it might be has a seed, and if that seed is to meet the right conditions of soil, water, and so forth, then this beautiful flower will bloom, right? So as all sentient beings have this potential, if they have the conditions of developing these positive qualities such as compassion, and develop the compassion further to great compassion, and then bodhicitta, and develop, if one takes brings about the conditions to develop all one's positive qualities, then one can go up and up and up until they attain Buddhahood.
진짜 뉴버처럼 돼야 되나 탐람이요 그래서 심 템포 차야 뉴버처럼 돼야 되나 wisdom 대화로 탑나 싫은 이야기처럼 돼야지 이 이야기처럼 되네 먼저 미디어에서 봐봐 뉴스 그러지 그래 산지 정말 그래야 이제 뉴버다 맞다로 정말 있는 통장이나 맞다 거라 빌리니 참이나 맞다 거라 배샤 맞다 거라
like
마음방도 빌린치는 디어스 나
matza, like matza the investment like that. Yeah. Yeah, like initial investment, I think is best translation. So we all have this nature of this mind, right? And all of the aspects that cause us unhappiness, like depression and anger and jealousy and all of these minds, these are not a natural part of the mind. They're not part of the nature of our mind. Our nature of mind is this incredible clarity, right? And has this we have this power to attain it if we can use the right methods, if we can develop a stable mind, if we can develop our wisdom, if we can develop these aspects of this method and wisdom of the path, then we can remove all these tunchok, like the erroneous or the discordant aspects that prevent us from understanding our nature. So this Buddha nature could be understood like a seed money for starting a business, right? In order to start a business, you need that initial investment to get it off the ground, and then you can develop it from there. So this Buddha nature could be understood like that. So it's just like that. If you had even if you had a little bit of an initial investment, but you wanted to make $1 billion, $1 million or $1 billion, you'd have to work really hard to achieve that, right? And it's like that. If you want to attain the state of Buddhahood, then you have to work hard. You have to meditate. You have to study. You have to do all these things and really work hard to develop these qualities. Okay. But there's no limit to the positive or the potential to develop our positive qualities. There's no limit to how many positive qualities. Oh, okay. Right. So physical material things has a limit. Like the brain has a limitations. Like you can only think so much, and then you kind of brain starts to get tired, and needs rest and sleep, and so there's definitely limits to what our physical bodies and our brain can achieve. But right. Okay. So, however, the mind doesn't have this limitation. The potential qualities you can keep developing up, until you reach this enlightenment. And this is the kind of state we can't say, like a Buddha has this quality and doesn't have this quality. Like we're not qualified to say that. Lord, right. So this, however, this process of developing up to attain enlightenment is a process that takes many, many lifetimes, right? We have to really, really work at it for many, many lifetimes. If we look at the Jataka tales in the history of the Buddha, he actually spent 1,000 lifetimes to attain enlightenment. So this one lifetime when he was born as a prince in India, it wasn't just that lifetime. Like, people think that's the life. I mean, he attained that. It just took that one lifetime to attain enlightenment. No, it was actually the work of many, many lifetimes. And it's good to have this understanding because some people sort of come to a couple of classes and then suddenly they're not enlightened, so they just go, "Oh, that's it. I've had enough," because we're very habituated with this kind of quick fix type thing, and if we don't get this immediate success, then we give up. So if you really want to be a genuine Dharma practitioner, you have to be willing to work for many lifetimes.
Oh, that's sim simple and she was that sim series chadeva. Those Java Tangi Java Samata and Gomja, Lende, Junior Samata, Georgia. Java unit the same unit wear.
Sim Kiwa Jude.
Simply Lagato Yabukuna, Yarto.
Okay.
Legato Jata to Ja Kondo Shetan. Kumakuya Jarija, Jagnisha, Lejan, Kumshima Maji, Koala Podi. Similar Jonga Deje, similar Yamencia, Children, so Commission to Commerce, Simaya, Comani Comia, Middle Comia, that indeed changes. Nothing Cheta Marunye singularly, Yardunye singularly. Yamar singular.
So when we talk about this awakening of our nature, it's to do with habituating the mind in the right methods or the right activities. So if we do positive aspects with our mind, then we'll develop further up and develop up and up and up and closer to Buddhahood. If we do negative aspects with our mind, we go down and just continue to cycle in samsara. So if we get caught up in attachment, ignorance, aversion, jealousy, and so forth, and then out of these things we do actions like killing and stealing and so forth, then we habituate ourselves with this kind of thinking and this kind of emotions and these kinds of behaviors, and this causes us to cycle continuously in samsara. However, if we change that thinking and develop things like morality, generosity, concentration, wisdom, all of these qualities that lead us closer to Buddhahood, if we habituate ourselves with those, then we'll go up and closer to the state of enlightenment. Okay, so we're out of time, so we'll cover the sixth one, the divisions of the nature, next time. So regarding the meditation, it's a little bit difficult to just sort of say, well, meditate on the nature of your mind or understand this luminous or clear light nature of your mind. However, what you can do is to actually look whatever arises in your mind, happiness or unhappiness, anything that arises in your mind, actually take time to look at that and see, like, when does it come about, how does it come about, what are the causes and conditions that bring these things about, and really try and understand this aspect of the mind. So if you don't have any difficulties or problems, that's great, then just be happy. But if you do have difficulties and problems as they tend to come about, then this is a very good method to help with that. Because if you can look at how does it come about, when did it occur, what are the causes and conditions, at least understanding this stops the problem, exaggerating the problem or growing the problem bigger. Yeah, question?
Yeah.
So when was the first time doing the nature of
When was it corrupted? So when was that? Yeah. Okay. When was that Buddha nature first corrupted? So was there a time when every being was like Arya being? So nanza di trima, di dugnagi trima karuyong, right? So di nyama mitsangma pakbai gangza yin or di karuyong? Right. Right. No, it's beginningless. You can't posit a point where it happened. It just always was. Could it seem somebody? Oh, okay. So we went over this when we're talking about the mind only view, where it just said that there's no beginning to this. It's from beginningless time. This stains.
I think 2, 3 years, 3 years ago, we had some interview in nursing. There's some question they said when started maybe as a this plan that we can say, otherwise we can't say maybe this thing beginning less. And one said, oh, better than make you, better than say like that. God name. But the 구조 소리에서 통화 열어. 나도 통화 열 말이라라. 이제는 구조 소리라는 통화도 와디 야고도 와서.
Right. So then they said, oh, well, it's much easier just to say God made human beings, because then you can say there's a beginning, right? You Buddhists and your beginningless nonsense, it's a bit difficult, but it's easier to just say God made people. Then you can posit a beginning. So you should ask who made God. Right. Yeah. Also, when you talk about the substance of the cup, like the I don't know, not even the atoms, but the particles that make up the cup. You can't actually posit a beginning for those either, right? The physical matter. You can say there's a beginning of the cup, sure, but the matter that makes up the cup, this you can't actually posit a beginning for.
Yeah.
So tama meba dini tapa meba tapa meba inji go girero.
다 타마디 지난주 심지 탐제 산제도 타마로.
Right.
먼저 코라다 코찔라다 이나 타마 주주진데 용거리 라고 말아.
Right.
심지 탐제 산제 주주지 용거라다.
So we can say that there's an end to like samsara when all beings become enlightened. At this point, you can say that's the end of samsara, but you can't say when that's going to happen. Right. Okay, so and so just as King of Prayers, yeah. Okay, just okay, so it's in the King of Prayers, something like just as there's limitlessness of space, such as the limits of sentient beings. The okay, so in this way there's no beginning to the limits to the space, but there can be an end to sentient beings when they all attain enlightenment. Something like that. I'm sorry, I'm not that familiar with the King of Prayers. If somebody knows that verse. Okay.
regular samdang de bhava Tawa yoga, Sanjay Kumar yoga,
Right. So it's very good to understand this nature, because if you understand this nature, then things like liberation and enlightenment definitely become a lot more easy to contemplate.